They called him the greatest. But Muhammad Ali never believed he was great because of boxing. He believed he was great because he tried, every single day, to please Allah. He said, "Everything I have, my fame, my strength, my talent, it all belongs to Allah. Without Him, I am nothing." Muhammad Ali wasn't just a boxer. He was a man who used his platform to remind the world that faith is greater than any championship belt. When the world cheered his name, he lowered his head and said, "I'm just a servant of Allah." When others looked for glory, he looked for Jannah. That was his real fight. Not against men in the ring, but against his own ego, his own desires, his own tests in life. He once said, "I don't count my sit-ups. I start counting when it starts hurting, because that's when it really counts." And in life, that's how faith works. Our true test begins when life hurts, when patience feels heavy, when loss burns, when the world turns its back on us. But that is when Allah is closest to us. That is when He is watching to see, will you give up or will you rise for His sake? Muhammad Ali knew pain. He knew rejection. He knew what it meant to lose everything for the sake of truth. When he refused to fight in a war he believed was unjust, they took his title, his money, his career, but they could never take his iman. He said, "I'd rather lose everything than go against what I believe is right in the eyes of Allah." How many of us today would stand so firm for our faith? How many of us would give up wealth, status, and comfort for what is true and eternal? That's what made Muhammad Ali different. That's what made him a real champion. Not the punches he threw, but the principles he lived by. He said, "Service to others is the rent you pay for your room in heaven." Every time he met someone, he tried to make them smile. Every time he gave a speech, he mentioned Allah. Every victory, he gave credit to his Creator, not himself. And every loss, he accepted with patience and faith. Ali wasn't perfect. None of us are. But he never stopped trying to be better. He used his fame not to glorify himself, but to glorify his Lord. He once said, "I'm not the greatest, Allah is." These words carry a lesson for us all. When the world praises you, remember the one who gave you everything. When the world forgets you, remember the one who never will. He often spoke about death, not as something to fear, but something to prepare for. He said, "Live every day like it's your last, because one day you're going to be right." He reminded people that every moment we live is one step closer to meeting Allah. And he lived with that awareness, humbly, gratefully, purposefully. When his body began to weaken from illness, his spirit grew stronger. His hands trembled, but his heart stood firm. He accepted every hardship as a test from Allah. He said, "Allah is testing me to see if I'll keep my faith, and I will never stop believing." Even in sickness, he smiled and said, "Maybe Allah is reminding me that this world is not forever." This is the strength that matters. Not muscles, not fame, not gold, but the strength of Tawakkul, the strength of Sabr, the strength of knowing that no matter how hard life gets, Allah is always in control. True courage is bowing your head in sujood when life knocks you down. True victory is not in winning titles, but in winning Allah's mercy. He once said, "Don't count the days, make the days count." And that is how believers should live. Every day is a chance to make our days count for the hereafter. Through kindness, through prayer, through helping others, through staying humble. When people asked him how he wanted to be remembered, he said, "I want to be remembered as a man who never sold out, who stood up for his beliefs, and who tried to serve Allah the best he could." That's the legacy of Muhammad Ali. Not just the champion of the world, but the champion of faith. So my brothers and sisters, remember this. You might never be in a boxing ring, but you are in a fight every day. Against temptation, against sin, against despair. Every struggle is a round in your fight for Jannah. Every prayer is a punch against Shaitan. Every act of patience is a shield that protects your soul. And every time you fall, get back up. Because Allah is watching your effort, not your result. Muhammad Ali's body has returned to the earth, but his message lives on. Serve others, trust Allah, and never give up on your faith. He once said, "The only thing that matters is submitting to Allah and doing His will." That's what made him truly the greatest, because the greatest person in this world is not the one who wins, but the one who submits. May Allah grant Muhammad Ali peace, forgive his shortcomings, and reward him for using his fame to call people toward truth. And may Allah grant us all the strength to live with the same courage, humility, and faith, so that when our time comes, we too can return to Him smiling, saying, "Alhamdulillah, I tried my best," because in the end, that's all that truly matters. Jazakallah, Allah Hafiz.